A phantom satellite supposedly circles our planet, an ancient alien observer hidden in plain sight. This is the legend of the Black Knight, a story woven from century-old radio signals, blurry astronaut photos, and whispered government conspiracies. It is also completely false, a myth debunked by science and history time and again. Yet, against all logic, the tale refuses to die, gripping our imagination with a power that facts alone cannot seem to break. By the end of this, you will understand not just what the Black Knight really is, but more importantly, why a story we know is wrong feels so irresistibly right. We will trace its birth from a genius misunderstood experiment to a piece of lost space trash mistaken for an artifact, uncovering the real human impulses that keep this cosmic ghost story alive. What does it say about us that we cling so tightly to a mystery that isn't really there? The legend begins not in the cold void of space, but in the crackling air of a remote Colorado laboratory in 1899. Nikola Tesla, the brilliant and often eccentric inventor, was conducting groundbreaking experiments with wireless radio transmission. He had built a massive tower to send and receive signals, pushing the boundaries of what was thought possible. One night, amidst the static and interference, Tesla detected something unusual, a series of 3 distinct repeating clicks. He meticulously documented this anomaly, and in his mind, a thrilling possibility took shape. He believed he had intercepted a deliberate, intelligent signal, not from any human source on Earth, but from another world. Tesla was convinced he was the first to make contact with an extraterrestrial civilization, a monumental discovery he announced with characteristic passion. This was not a hoax or a fantasy for him. It was a genuine scientific hypothesis based on an observed phenomenon he could not immediately explain. The truth, as later science would determine, was far more mundane. Tesla had almost certainly detected natural radio pulses from a celestial object, likely a pulsar, a type of rapidly spinning neutron star that emits regular bursts of radiation. But the real seed of the Black Knight myth was planted decades later, when UFO researchers in the mid-20th century looked back at Tesla's notes. They took his sincere, if mistaken, interpretation and fused it with emerging tales of a mysterious satellite. What if that signal wasn't just from any alien civilization, but from a specific alien object already in orbit? The idea that a lone genius ahead of his time and misunderstood by his peers had made first contact with an ancient artifact was irresistibly romantic. It wove together 2 powerful narratives, the mystery of the cosmos and the tragedy of the unappreciated visionary. This connection gave the Black Knight a backstory, a sense of historical weight and scientific credibility, all stemming from one man's moment of awe and error in a stormy Colorado field. Tesla's lonely signal was just the beginning. Decades later, a new and equally baffling radio mystery emerged, one that seemed to taunt the very laws of physics. In the late 1920s and 30s, researchers in Norway and the Netherlands, pioneers in the new field of radio science, began noticing something impossible. They would transmit a short, sharp pulse of radio energy into the sky, expecting to hear its echo bounce back from the Earth's ionosphere after a fraction of a second. Instead, sometimes a second echo would return, not after a fraction of a second, but after a silence lasting several seconds, sometimes as long as 15. These were the long-delayed echoes, and they made no sense. If the echo was bouncing off something in orbit, the delay would be mere milliseconds. A 15-second delay implied the signal had traveled an immense, impossible distance out into space before somehow being reflected back. This was a genuine, peer-reviewed scientific puzzle that captivated physicists. Legitimate theories were proposed, perhaps strange plasma clouds in the upper atmosphere, or unusual ionospheric conditions creating a slow, rolling wave of reflection. The echoes were a real phenomenon with no clear, agreed-upon explanation, a true blank space on the map of human knowledge, and as with Tesla's experiment, that blank space proved irresistible. Decades later, when the Black Knight legend was being stitched together, proponents pointed directly to these long-delayed echoes. They asked a simple, compelling question: what if the echo wasn't from a plasma cloud, but from an ancient, dense object in a far orbit? What if those Norwegian scientists had accidentally pinged the Black Knight satellite and it had answered back? This is the critical pattern, the engine of the myth. It does not invent evidence from thin air. Instead, it takes authentic, documented, unexplained events and grafts the story onto them. A mysterious signal becomes an alien greeting. An unexplained echo becomes a radar confirmation. The vacuum of a real scientific mystery is filled with a speculative, thrilling narrative. The power lies in that fusion, because challenging the myth then feels like you are challenging the historical fact. You are not just saying a story is fake, you are being asked to dismiss a real, recorded anomaly that even scientists could not fully explain. The legend parasitizes our curiosity, offering a ready-made answer where science only had a question. Radio mysteries from the past were one thing, but the Black Knight needed a sighting in the modern age, a tangible object caught by the military in the tense glare of the Cold War. That moment arrived in February of 1960. The United States Navy was operating a revolutionary new system, a vast network of radar and telescopes designed to track man-made objects in space. Their primary fear was not ancient aliens, but the Soviet Union. The space race was also an espionage race, and the thought of a Russian spy satellite silently passing over America was a terrifying prospect. Then their system detected it, an unknown object in a near-polar orbit, a path ideal for surveillance. It was dark, non-reflective, and utterly unidentifiable. Panic rippled through the defense community. Had the Soviets secretly launched something? Internal memos trying to describe this enigmatic intruder, sometimes referred to it with a nickname that would echo through history: the Dark Knight. A label born not from mythology, but from a simple technical observation. It did not reflect light. The mystery was short-lived for those with clearance. Within days, analysts cross-referenced the orbit and realized the truth. They were tracking the discarded casing of a failed American mission, the Discoverer 8 rocket body, tumbling end over end in the darkness. It was a piece of their own space junk, misidentified in the fog of paranoia. But the genie was already out of the bottle. Time magazine, one of the most authoritative news sources of the era, ran a story on the detection. Their headline did not focus on the mundane explanation. It highlighted the initial fear, the unknown. For the public reading that article, the takeaway was clear: the U.S. military had found an unidentified satellite in a suspicious orbit. The later correction, the footnote about it being a rocket body, never carried the same weight as that initial jolt of mystery. This is how a cornerstone of the legend was laid. A real event, a genuine moment of Cold War anxiety, was stripped of its context and its conclusion. All that remained was the captivating headline, the official confirmation of something unknown in our skies. The Black Knight was no longer just a story about old radio signals. It was a modern object tracked by the Pentagon, reported by Time. The myth had been given a certificate of authenticity, signed by the 20th century itself. The military radar had given the myth a modern sighting, but it was the word of a hero that would give it a human face. In May of 1963, astronaut Gordon Cooper was alone in the tiny capsule of his Faith 7 spacecraft, the final mission of Project Mercury. He was a test pilot and an engineer, a man trained to observe with clinical precision, and during his 15th orbit he reported seeing something, a glowing, greenish object approaching his capsule. He was certain it was real, solid, and under intelligent control. Cooper immediately notified the tracking station in Machia, Australia, and they confirmed their radar had also picked up an unidentified target approaching his position. This was not a vague light in the distance. It was a corroborated event involving one of America's most trusted space pioneers. The official explanation, issued later, was that a faulty circuit in his capsule had caused a carbon dioxide buildup, possibly triggering a hallucination, and the radar return was dismissed as an anomaly. For Cooper, this explanation was an insult. He maintained until his death that he saw a genuine, unidentified craft. More importantly, in his later years, he became a vocal advocate for government transparency on UFOs, publicly criticizing what he saw as a culture of secrecy and cover-up within NASA and other agencies. This is where the legend performs its most powerful alchemy. It takes Cooper's genuine, credible testimony about an unexplained event and seamlessly inserts the Black Knight into the story. The narrative suggests that what he saw that day was not just any UFO, but the ancient satellite itself, and that the swift official dismissal was not just bureaucratic caution, but an active suppression of the truth. The power here is immense. When a myth can claim a Gordon Cooper as a witness, it transcends campfire stories. It borrows his courage, his credibility, and his righteous frustration with the system. His advocacy for disclosure is framed not as a general call for openness, but as a specific, personal fight to reveal what he knew about the Black Knight. The audience is invited to side with the heroic astronaut against the faceless government agency, transforming a complex debate about aerial phenomena into a simple, compelling story of a truth-teller silenced. Cooper's experience provided the legend with something no blurry photo or old magazine article ever could, a soul. But a story told by astronauts and reported in magazines still lacked a single iconic image. That arrived with the dawn of the public internet, a perfect storm of mystery and new technology. In December 1998, the space shuttle Endeavour launched on mission STS-88, its goal to begin constructing the International Space Station. During the mission, astronauts performed a spacewalk to connect the first two modules. It was a historic moment captured on camera, and in one of the thousands of photographs beamed back to Earth, something strange appeared. Floating against the blackness of space and the curve of the Earth was a dark, jagged object. It had what looked like a central axis and protruding arms, a bizarre, asymmetrical structure tumbling slowly in the void. When this image hit the nascent World Wide Web, it ignited like wildfire. Here, finally, was the smoking gun, a clear photograph from a NASA mission showing an unidentified artificial object in orbit. Enthusiasts analyzed every pixel, pointing to its seemingly crafted geometry, its non-natural appearance. They labeled it the Black Knight satellite caught on film at last. The photo spread across forums and early websites, its ambiguity feeding the legend with more fuel than ever before. For the first time, millions could see the mystery with their own eyes. The power of that single image cannot be overstated. It transformed the Black Knight from a story you heard into something you could see, a visual anchor for decades of speculation. The legend had found its face, and it was terrifyingly convincing. Yet, the truth behind the photo is a masterclass in orbital perspective and human psychology. The object was not an ancient artifact. It was a piece of modern space trash, specifically a thermal blanket. These are multi-layered sheets of insulation, often covered in a metallic outer layer that protect equipment from extreme temperatures. During an earlier spacewalk on that very same shuttle mission, a blanket had been lost. It drifted away, a flat, flexible sheet of material. But in the vacuum of space with no air resistance, it did not simply float neatly. It tumbled, bent, and twisted. The photograph that captivated the world captured it from a specific angle at a specific moment in its tumble. The crumpled folds of the blanket caught the sunlight along their edges, creating stark contrasts of light and shadow. What the human brain perceived was not a crumpled sheet, but depth and structure, a central body with distinct protrusions. Our minds are wired for pattern recognition, especially to find faces and objects in random shapes, a phenomenon called pareidolia. We see a man in the moon, a face in a cloud, and in a tumbling piece of insulation we saw a satellite. When you see a side-by-side comparison, the illusion shatters. A photo of an identical, unused thermal blanket on the ground shows the exact same textured, segmented pattern. The so-called arms of the Black Knight are just the accordion folds of the blanket, its strange body just a crumpled corner. This was the perfect myth for the internet age, a visually compelling piece of evidence that could be shared globally in an instant, divorced from the boring, technical context that explained it. The story was always more appealing than the reality of a lost piece of workshop material silently orbiting the Earth. So the photograph was a tumbling piece of modern insulation, a trick of light and perspective. But the legend's most audacious claim isn't just about what it looks like, it's about how long it's supposedly been there. Proponents often describe the Black Knight as an artifact from an ancient civilization, perhaps 12 or 13,000 years old, silently circling our world since the last ice age. This is where the story doesn't just bend the truth, it completely shatters against the unyielding laws of physics. Let's take a very simple tour of orbital mechanics, the rules that govern everything we put into space. Think of it like this: space isn't a perfect, empty vacuum, especially close to Earth. Our planet is wrapped in a thin, extended atmosphere, a fading whisper of gas that reaches hundreds of miles up. Any object in low Earth orbit, which is where the Black Knight is always said to be, is constantly brushing against the outermost fringes of this atmosphere. It's an incredibly thin soup of particles, but when you're traveling at 17,500 miles per hour, even a few stray molecules create friction. This is called atmospheric drag, and it acts like a constant, gentle brake. Every single pass, every orbit, steals a tiny bit of energy from the object, causing its orbit to decay, to slowly spiral lower and lower. Without periodic boosts from an engine to push it back up, every satellite, every piece of debris is on an inevitable countdown timer. For a dense, modern satellite in a relatively high orbit, that timer might be centuries. For something in a lower orbit, or something with a large, irregular shape that catches more drag, like a tumbling thermal blanket, the timer is much shorter, often just years or decades. The idea that any object, especially one large enough to be seen by astronauts, could maintain a stable orbit for 13,000 years in this environment is simply impossible. It would have succumbed to drag and burned up in a fiery re-entry before the pyramids were even a blueprint. Now you might wonder, what about other orbits? Are there places where something could park forever? Scientists have identified special zones called Lagrange points, where the gravitational pull of the Earth and the Sun balance out, creating a kind of orbital parking spot. We do place telescopes there, like the James Webb Space Telescope, and there are so-called graveyard orbits high above the active satellite belts where we send retired spacecraft to drift. But here's the crucial detail: none of these match the Black Knight's described behavior. Objects at Lagrange points are nearly 1 million miles away, far too distant to be seen by astronauts or captured in detailed shuttle photography. Graveyard orbits are much higher than the low polar path consistently attributed to the mystery satellite. The legend wants it both ways. It wants the object to be close enough to be seen and photographed, interacting with our missions, yet old enough to predate human history. Orbital mechanics tells us you cannot have both. The very conditions that would allow a visual sighting guarantee a relatively short, decaying orbit. The conditions that allow for millennia-long stability place the object far beyond the reach of casual observation. This isn't a matter of interpretation or debate, it's basic celestial arithmetic. So if the science is this clear, if the orbit is an impossibility and the photo has a mundane explanation, why does the Black Knight feel more real to us than the thermal blanket it actually is? The answer lies not in the stars, but deep within the human mind itself. Names have power, and few are as perfectly engineered for mystery as the Black Knight. It did not begin with that title. The seed was planted in that tense military memo from 1960 describing the unknown radar return. The language was dry, technical, a simple descriptor, the dark night. This was not a mythological reference, but a literal observation, an object that did not reflect light, a dark spot against the radar screen. But in the retelling, a single letter shifted, and with it, an entire universe of meaning opened up. Dark became black. The change is subtle but profound. Dark is a property, a state of being unseen. Black is an identity, a color loaded with cultural weight, from the black ops of secret government projects to the black robes of judges and executioners. It carries an implicit sense of purpose and menace. And then there is the knight. This was the masterstroke. A knight is not just a soldier, it is a figure from legend, bound by a code, operating in a shadowy world of chivalry and intrigue. It implies an intelligent agent, a silent guardian, or a watchful enemy. Combine the two, and you have the Black Knight, a title that feels both ancient and ominously modern. It sounds like something from a forgotten Arthurian tale, a spectral warrior circling a cosmic castle. This name did everything the truth could not. It transformed unknown debris number 34,782 into a character with a story. We are not wired to care about catalog numbers, but we are instinctively drawn to characters, to entities with implied motives and histories. The name framed the phenomenon not as a what, but as a who. And pop culture was waiting, ready to pour concrete around this foundation. In comics and pulp science fiction, the Black Knight was already an established archetype, a mysterious, often morally ambiguous figure. When the legend began circulating in broader circles, that name resonated because audiences had already been primed to understand it. It came pre-loaded with atmosphere, a sense of gothic secrecy and noble, lonely purpose. The name became a self-fulfilling prophecy. Every new piece of alleged evidence, from Tesla's signals to Gordon Cooper's sighting, was no longer just an anomaly. It was another chapter in the saga of the night. The branding was so effective that it made the mundane truth feel inadequate, even boring. Who wants to debunk a thermal blanket when you can instead unravel the mystery of the Black Knight? The title itself became the most compelling piece of evidence because it told us exactly how to feel, long before we ever saw a single blurry photo. But a name alone cannot build a legend. It needs fertile ground in which to grow, a culture already dreaming of the very thing it describes. For that, we must look not to science but to storytelling. The single most powerful piece of evidence for the Black Knight was not a photograph or a radio signal. It was a work of fiction that premiered in 1968. Stanley Kubrick and Arthur C. Clarke's film 2001, A Space Odyssey, presented the world with an image so potent it would haunt our collective imagination. The monolith, a perfect black rectangular slab of alien origin discovered buried on the moon. It was silent, ancient, and utterly inscrutable. Its purpose was clear: to observe and to trigger leaps in human evolution. When it was activated by the sun, it sent a piercing signal toward Jupiter. Here was the complete archetype, an alien artifact placed in our celestial backyard as a silent sentinel, a teacher, a watcher. The film was a monumental cultural event, and its ideas seeped into the public consciousness. Suddenly, the concept of an ancient alien object in orbit around Earth was not a fringe idea. It was a breathtaking premise explored by our greatest filmmakers and writers. It felt plausible because it was presented with such stark artistic conviction. The Black Knight legend, coalescing in the years and decades after 2001, did not need to invent its core premise. The monolith had already done the heavy lifting. It provided a ready-made narrative template, a visual shorthand. When people heard about a dark, mysterious satellite, their minds did not go to a list of catalogued debris. They went to that iconic black slab from the movies. Fiction had educated our expectations, making the impossible feel eerily familiar, and 2001 was not alone. The trope of the alien artifact predates it and flourished after it. From the derelict ships in the Alien franchise to the mysterious probes in Star Trek, our stories are filled with silent, ancient technology waiting to be discovered. Each one reinforces the same deep-seated idea that the cosmos is not empty, it is littered with the relics of those who came before. This created a cultural receptiveness, a priming of the audience. When the thermal blanket photo emerged decades later, people did not just see crumpled insulation. They saw a monolith. They saw a story they already knew and loved reflected back at them from the void. The legend succeeded because it felt like a real-life enactment of a science fiction plot we had all collectively absorbed. It was a myth that knew its audience, speaking directly to a century of narratives that asked, what if we are not alone, and what if they left something behind for us to find? This cultural priming was a dry fuse waiting for a spark, and the internet provided the flame. The digital age did not just spread the Black Knight story, it fundamentally rewrote it, transforming a niche mystery into a global phenomenon. The early 2000s saw the rise of communities like AboveTopSecret.com, vast digital town squares where anyone could be a detective. Here, the fragments we have traced, the Tesla signal, the long-delayed echoes, the Time magazine article, Gordon Cooper's testimony, and the shuttle photo were not seen as separate curiosities. They were treated as pieces of a single, sprawling puzzle. A user in one thread would post the grainy Endeavour photograph. Another, in a different forum, would link to a scanned article about Nikola Tesla. A third would chime in with a technical analysis of polar orbits. The collective effort was breathtaking, a distributed brain tirelessly connecting dots across decades and disciplines. But this process had a critical flaw. It operated on a rule of confirmation, not skepticism. Every new piece of information was welcomed if it fit the emerging tapestry, while contradictory evidence, like the official thermal blanket explanation, was dismissed as part of the cover-up. The forum became an echo chamber, a place where the myth was not examined but assembled, its narrative coherence proof enough of its truth. This collaborative storytelling then met the raw power of algorithmic amplification. Early YouTube, with its related videos sidebar, acted like a myth-making engine. If you watched one video about the Black Knight, the platform would suggest another, then another, each often more sensational than the last. You would fall into a rabbit hole of content where every thumbnail promised shocking truth or definitive proof. The algorithm could not distinguish between a critical documentary and a speculative montage set to ominous music. It only saw engagement. This created a perfect feedback loop. Viewers seeking mystery were fed more mystery, their clicks training the system to promote even more of the same. The myth was no longer something you had to seek out. It was delivered to you, packaged for maximum intrigue. And into this hungry ecosystem stepped a new kind of storyteller, the independent content creator. For many, the goal was not education but engagement, measured in views, likes, and subscribes. A dry, factual video explaining orbital decay and thermal blanket properties would not capture the imagination. But a dramatic narration over that same shuttle photo, asking urgent questions about ancient astronauts and government silence, would. A cottage industry emerged, producing hour-long documentaries that presented the layered legend as established fact, weaving together the forum-sourced connections with a professional sheen of graphics and music. Critical analysis was often absent or presented as a brief hurdle quickly overcome. These videos were compelling stories, and they were treated as such by audiences who consumed them like episodes of a thriller. The line between entertainment and evidence blurred beyond recognition. The digital age gave the Black Knight something it never had in the era of magazines and radio, a perpetual motion machine. It could be endlessly remixed, shared, and rediscovered, each generation of viewers encountering it as a fresh, shocking secret, unaware of the decades of debunking that lay just a search query away. The internet did not just spread a myth, it built a self-sustaining universe for it to live in, forever just one click away from feeling real. Our minds are built for connection, not for emptiness. We stare at clouds and sea dragons, we find shapes in the stars, and in a tumbling piece of space insulation, we saw a satellite. This instinct has a name, apophenia. It is the innate human drive to perceive meaningful patterns or connections within random or meaningless data. It is not a flaw, it is a feature, a survival mechanism honed over millennia. For our ancestors on the savannah, the rustle in the grass was rarely just the wind, it was more often a predator. The brain that assumed a pattern that connected a sound to a threat lived to pass on its genes. The brain that dismissed it as random noise did not. We are the descendants of the paranoid, the hyper-vigilant, the supreme pattern seekers. This wiring served us brilliantly on Earth, but it sets a trap for us when we look upward into the vast, silent randomness of space. The universe is full of noise, cosmic static, unexplained echoes, and strange lights. Apophenia compels us to take that noise and arrange it into a signal. The thermal blanket photo from the Endeavour mission is a textbook case, presented with ambiguous visual data, a dark shape against the void. Our neural circuitry does not calmly assess the probabilities of space debris. It screams for identification. The crumpled edges become deliberate struts, the folds become a central axis, the play of light and shadow gives it depth and intention. We are not seeing what is there, we are seeing what our brain insists must be there, a structured, crafted object. This same cognitive engine is what drives the entire Black Knight narrative. It takes disparate, unconnected events scattered across a century, each with its own mundane or misunderstood explanation, and weaves them into a single, elegant tapestry. Nikola Tesla's misinterpreted pulsar signal from 1899, the baffling long-delayed radio echoes of the 1920s, the misidentified rocket body tracked in 1960, Gordon Cooper's unexplained sighting in 1963, these are the individual points of data. To a skeptical eye, they are separate curiosities, historical footnotes in the long story of human error and discovery. But to the pattern-seeking mind, they are not random. They are dots on a map, and the irresistible urge is to connect them. The line we draw between those dots forms the silhouette of the Black Knight. Apophenia provides the narrative glue, transforming coincidence into conspiracy and accident into artifact. It feels true because it satisfies our deepest cognitive craving for a story where everything fits, where chaos is replaced by a hidden, intelligent order. The terrifying, beautiful truth of the cosmos is that it is under no obligation to make sense to us, but our brains, forged in a world of immediate cause and effect, simply cannot accept that. So we build nights out of blankets and legends out of static. This deep-seated need for hidden patterns meets an even more fundamental craving, the hunger for mystery itself. We live in a world that feels increasingly mapped, measured, and explained. You can pull out a device and see a satellite image of your own roof, track a package across continents in real time, or access the sum of human knowledge in your pocket. The frontiers have seemingly vanished from our daily lives. This creates a quiet, pervasive yearning for the unknown, for a corner of the map that still says, "Here be dragons." Space, the final frontier, promised that sense of limitless wonder. Yet, even there, our science has provided answers. We know the composition of distant nebulae, we have probed the atmospheres of exoplanets, we understand the life cycle of stars. While awe-inspiring, this knowledge can also feel like a catalogue, turning the sublime into data points. The Black Knight legend rebels against that. It insists that right here, in our most familiar celestial neighborhood, a profound secret has been hiding in plain sight for generations. It is not a mystery light years away, but a puzzle orbiting just overhead, something that, in theory, we could almost reach out and touch. This is powerfully romantic. It suggests that despite all our telescopes and probes, we missed something enormous. a story written across the sky that we are only now learning to read. It restores a sense of childlike wonder to the heavens, the thrilling possibility that the universe is still playful, still keeping secrets from us. This stands in stark contrast to the actual, often undramatic work of space science. The Truth About Orbital Debris is a story of engineering challenges and meticulous tracking, of catalog numbers and probability equations. It is vital, but it is not a myth. It does not speak to our longing for epic narratives. We are presented with a choice. Do we accept the explained reality of a lost thermal blanket, or do we embrace the unexplained legend of an ancient sentinel? For many, the legend wins not because it is more logical, but because it is more meaningful. It feeds a part of us that data cannot nourish, the part that wants to look up at the night sky and feel a genuine shiver of the unknown. This deep craving for mystery finds its ultimate expression in a story as old as power itself, The Cover-Up. The Black Knight narrative is not complete without its antagonist, a shadowy them dedicated to keeping the truth from us. This framework transforms a simple myth into a thrilling cosmic conspiracy, one that is psychologically bulletproof. At its heart are three classic characters straight from a political thriller. First, the secret keepers, monolithic agencies like NASA and the Pentagon. In the legend, they are not explorers or defenders, but gatekeepers of forbidden knowledge. Their vast budgets and classified projects are recast not as tools for science or security, but as a machinery of silence. Second, the brave truth-tellers, figures like Gordon Cooper or rogue scientists who claim to have seen the evidence firsthand. They are the modern-day prophets, respected insiders who risk their reputations to warn the public. And third, the suppressed evidence itself, the blurry photos, the lost data tapes, the reports that were conveniently misplaced. This triad creates a narrative engine that is incredibly satisfying. It turns passive observation into active participation. You are not just learning about a satellite, you are joining a resistance, piecing together clues that they tried to hide. Believing in this cover-up offers a powerful psychological reward, a sense of elite insight. It makes you feel smarter, more perceptive than the so-called sheeple who blindly accept the official story of space junk and faulty circuits. You see the deeper pattern they miss. This intellectual vanity is a potent fuel, making the believer feel part of a privileged minority that can handle the terrifying truth. And this is why the conspiracy framework is so brilliantly resistant to facts. It builds its own logic trap. Any official denial from NASA is not a correction, it is confirmation. Of course, they would say that they are part of the cover-up. Any scientist presenting a mundane explanation for the shuttle photo is dismissed as either a paid shill or a brainwashed academic. Even the absence of evidence becomes proof. The fact that we do not have clearer pictures, that just shows how thoroughly they have scrubbed the data. The conspiracy theory metabolizes contradiction and turns it into nourishment. Every attempt at debunking is seen as another layer of the deception, making the believer feel even more certain, even more special for seeing through it. The myth survives not in spite of being debunked, but because it has been debunked by the very authorities it accuses of lying. This transforms a debate about evidence into a battle of identities, where faith in the story becomes a badge of courage and independent thought. The truth about thermal blankets could not possibly compete with the emotional and intellectual payoff of being a secret keeper, unraveling a galactic conspiracy from your own computer screen. The Black Knight is not a lie we tell others, but a story we tell ourselves. It functions less like a scientific hypothesis and more like a modern piece of mythology, a digital age folktale built from the same timeless narrative bones. Like any enduring legend, it possesses a classic cast of characters and a plot that resonates across centuries. It has a mysterious, almost divine origin, lost in a prehistory of Tesla's signals and ancient civilizations. It has heroic witnesses, our astronaut knights like Gordon Cooper, whose credibility is beyond reproach. It has a powerful guardian of secrets, the modern equivalent of a dragon or a jealous god, in the form of a shadowy government apparatus. And at its heart lies a magical artifact, the satellite itself, an object of power and mystery that holds the key to a greater truth. This is not the structure of a news report, it is the architecture of an epic. Legends are not born whole, they evolve. They are shaped by the tellers and the times. Think of King Arthur. The earliest Welsh poems mention a warrior named Arthur, but over centuries, storytellers added the sword in the stone, the round table, the quest for the Holy Grail, and the wizard Merlin. Each retelling refined the myth, sanding off rough edges and adding glorious new details that audiences wanted to hear. The inconvenient historical facts, the messy reality of post-Roman Britain, faded away, leaving only the resonant core of the story. The Black Knight has followed this exact same evolutionary path. Its own Merlin was Nikola Tesla, a figure of near-magical genius. Its holy grail is the shuttle photograph, the elusive proof. Its round table is the internet forum where modern bards gather to piece the saga together. And just like ancient myths, inconvenient truths, the orbital mechanics, the thermal blanket analysis, are not incorporated. They are discarded as heresy or explained away as part of the Guardian's deception. The story is polished with each retelling, becoming smoother, more compelling, and more detached from its original, mundane components. This reveals the ultimate truth about the Black Knight. Its persistence is not evidence of its reality, but proof of its narrative power. It survives because it fulfills a deep human need, one that raw data and catalog numbers can never satisfy. We are a species that understands the world through stories. We use them to explain the unknown, to instill wonder, and to define our place in the cosmos. In an age where science has demystified so much, the legend of an ancient watcher in the sky restores a sense of grandeur and mystery to the heavens above us. It tells us that even in our era of satellites and shuttles, magic might still be lurking in the orbital pathways just out of sight. The story endures because on some level we want it to be true. We choose the legend not over the facts but alongside them because it offers a different kind of truth. One written not in equations, but in the timeless language of myth. The final, most powerful layer of the legend is not found in old magazines or fuzzy photos, but in the polished glow of our television and computer screens. We have entered the age of documentary legitimacy, where the story is no longer whispered on forums but broadcast with all the authority of a science special. Certain television networks and popular YouTube channels have mastered the art of dressing speculation in the costume of fact. They begin with a slow, solemn musical score and a narrator whose voice carries the grave weight of a news anchor. The graphics are sleek, three-dimensional models of the Black Knight spin against star fields, labeled with official-looking dates and coordinates. Then come the interviews, often with a carefully selected roster of talking heads. A retired Air Force officer with a distinguished record, a former NASA contractor who speaks in cautious technical terms, a historian who provides context about Cold War secrecy. Their credentials are real, their backgrounds impressive. The presentation feels balanced, even-handed. The narrator will say, some researchers believe this object is evidence of ancient extraterrestrial visitation, while mainstream scientists dismiss it as space debris. The problem is not that they present two sides, it is that they present them as two sides of equal weight, like political parties in a debate. This is the trap of false balance. On one side, you have a mountain of peer-reviewed physics, orbital mechanics data, photographic analysis confirming the thermal blanket, and historical documentation of the Discoverer rocket body. On the other side, you have a compelling story woven from misinterpretations and apophenia. Presenting these as equally valid viewpoints is like hosting a debate on whether the Earth is round, featuring one astronomer and one flat earther and calling it a draw. It leaves the viewer with a profound and misleading impression, that this is a genuine scientific controversy, an unsolved mystery where the experts are still divided. The documentary does not need to outright lie, it simply needs to omit. It will spend 20 minutes building the myth with evocative visuals and testimony, then allocate 90 seconds to the debunking, often with a dismissive tone or over a clip of a bored-looking bureaucrat in a bland office. The emotional scoring drops away for that part. The contrast is subconscious but powerful. The myth is presented with wonder and awe, the facts with bureaucratic dryness. The viewer's heart is captured long before their mind is asked to analyze. This media ecosystem completes the legend's life cycle. It takes the raw, crowd-sourced myth from the internet and launders it through a production studio, returning it to the public stamped with a seal of televised credibility. For a viewer encountering this story for the first time through such a program, the question is no longer, is the Black Knight real, but why is the government so intent on hiding it? The documentary form itself has answered the first question by its very presentation, leaving only the more thrilling conspiracy to explore. The myth becomes immortal not because it defeats its debunkers, but because it has been expertly repackaged to make the debunking seem like just another part of the cover-up. So where does a satellite of myth fit into the grand sweep of human history? It finds a home in one of the most popular narratives of our time, the idea that we are not the authors of our own story. The Black Knight did not remain just a mysterious object. It was recruited as a key piece of evidence for the ancient astronaut theory. This framework, massively popularized by figures like Erich von Däniken and television series like Ancient Aliens, proposes a sweeping rewrite of our past. It suggests that extraterrestrial visitors interacted with ancient civilizations, providing the knowledge and technology to build the pyramids, carve the Nazca lines, and author sacred texts. Within this grand saga, every unexplained artifact becomes a clue, and the Black Knight was a clue waiting in the sky. Proponents seized upon it as the ultimate smoking gun, the one piece of the puzzle that never went away. It was not just a relic left on Earth to be buried by sand. It was a functioning beacon placed in orbit as a watchtower or a homing signal, still circling long after its builders departed. This adoption elevated the myth to a new level. It was no longer a standalone mystery. It became a critical chapter in a much larger, more exciting story about humanity's cosmic origins. The appeal of this ancient astronaut narrative is profound because it solves several human anxieties at once. First, it simplifies history. The true story of human achievement is messy, slow, and collective. It involves generations of trial and error, cultural exchange, and incremental innovation. The ancient astronaut theory replaces that complex, gradual climb with a single, dramatic event, a gift from the stars. It attributes our greatest wonders not to the sweat and genius of our ancestors, but to an external, superior intelligence. This can be strangely comforting as it absolves us of a subtle pressure, the weight of wondering if we could ever build such things again with our own hands. Second, it provides a clear, divine-like purpose. If aliens jump-started our civilization, then our entire history becomes a preparation, a long childhood awaiting reunion with our cosmic parents. It suggests a destined, star-faring future written into our DNA, a narrative far more thrilling than the uncertain, politically fraught reality of modern space exploration. And this is where the Black Knight completes the circuit. In this framework, it is the tangible proof, the literal artifact in the attic. The pyramids could be explained with great effort by human engineering. The Nazca lines could be the work of determined cultures, but a satellite, a manufactured object in a precise orbit, that, the theory argues, is technology, pure and simple, and it predates Sputnik by millennia. It becomes the one piece of evidence that seems to defy any earthly explanation, the anchor that makes the entire ancient astronaut story feel scientifically credible. The myth provides the artifact, and the ancient astronaut theory provides the epic backstory, each giving the other a powerful sense of legitimacy. Together, they answer a deep, almost spiritual longing to look up at the night sky and not feel alone, to believe that our story is part of a much larger, more magnificent cosmic tale, and that a piece of that story has been watching over us all along. That epic cosmic story is also a remarkably good business model. Look at any video platform today, and you will find the black night staring back at you from 1,000 thumbnails, often glowing with an eerie green light it never possessed, next to bold red arrows and titles screaming in all capital letters. The algorithm rewards mystery, and this particular mystery has proven to be a perpetual engagement machine. Every click on a video titled "The Truth They Don't Want You to See" or "Final Proof of the Black Knight" translates into tangible revenue from advertising. The more sensational the title, the more ominous the music, the more likely a viewer is to stop scrolling and dive in. This creates a direct financial incentive for content creators to not just discuss the legend, but to amplify it, to frame every piece of debunked evidence as a shocking new revelation. The goal shifts subtly from education to provocation because provocation pays the bills, and the ecosystem expands far beyond the screen. A simple online search reveals a marketplace of belief. You can buy a T-shirt with the grainy shuttle photo emblazoned across the chest. You can hang a poster of the satellite's imagined form on your wall. You can purchase dozens of books, both physical and digital, that promise to reveal the classified files or the ancient alien connections. This merchandise transforms the myth from an idea into an identity. Wearing the shirt or displaying the poster is a statement, a way of signaling membership in a community that sees the deeper truth. For the sellers, it is a straightforward transaction, meeting a demand that the legend itself has created. It is crucial to understand that most of these creators and sellers are not villains orchestrating a deliberate fraud. Many are genuine enthusiasts captivated by the story, and others are simply entrepreneurs recognizing a viable niche. The issue is not necessarily malicious intent, but the unavoidable consequence of a commercial feedback loop. When a mystery generates views and sales, the economic machinery naturally works to sustain it. This means there is little incentive to produce a final, definitive video titled "The Black Knight, Case Closed, Here is the Thermal Blanket." That video would get a fraction of the clicks, end the conversation, and ultimately stop the revenue stream. So the mystery must be carefully maintained, like a campfire that is never allowed to go out. New angles are constantly sought, old evidence is repackaged, and any scientific rebuttal is framed not as a correction, but as the next chapter in the conspiracy. The truth becomes secondary to the trajectory of the narrative, because the narrative is what keeps the audience and the income flowing. This commercial layer adds a final, real-world pillar to the legend's endurance. It is no longer sustained just by psychology or culture, but by the very practical economy of curiosity. So the commercial cycle spins, feeding the myth with clicks and revenue. But this raises a crucial question. If the truth is so clear, why does it so often lose the public relations battle? The answer lies not in the evidence, but in the delivery. Official scientific communication, for all its rigor, often speaks a language the human heart does not understand. When NASA issues a press release about mission STS-88, it is a document of facts. It will state a thermal control blanket was inadvertently lost during an extravehicular activity. It will include catalog numbers, orbital parameters, and technical descriptors. It is accurate, responsible, and utterly devoid of drama. It explains the what, but it never tells a story. For a person captivated by the legend of an ancient satellite, this dry bulletin feels like a dismissal, a bureaucratic shrug in the face of a cosmic wonder. It does not engage the imagination it was designed to educate. Similarly, many skeptical debunking articles follow a forensic template. They line up the claims, then systematically dismantle them with logic and data. Point 1, the object's orbit is unstable. Point 2, the photo matches a known piece of equipment. Point 3, Tesla was likely hearing a pulsar. This approach is intellectually satisfying, but it is a clinical autopsy, not a conversation. It addresses the myth as a series of faulty propositions to be corrected, rather than a narrative to be replaced. It speaks to the head while ignoring the gut where the legend truly lies. Now listen to the tone of a popular conspiracy video. The narrator does not list facts, he unfolds a mystery. He begins with a question that makes you lean in. What did Gordon Cooper really see out his window? He introduces characters, the heroic astronaut, the shadowy agency. He builds suspense with music and careful pacing, saving the grainy photo for the perfect dramatic moment. He is not presenting evidence, he is telling a story, and we are hardwired to listen. The scientific press release gives us a conclusion. The conspiracy video gives us a journey with heroes, villains, and a secret to uncover. When these two forces collide, the dry fact sheet rarely stands a chance against the emotional epic. This is the core failure of traditional science communication in the face of modern myth. It brought a spreadsheet to a storytelling contest. To truly combat a powerful narrative, you cannot just present counterfacts, you must offer a better, truer story. Imagine if the explanation of the Endeavour photograph was delivered not as a footnote, but as a human drama. A story about the astronauts on that historic mission, the intense focus of building a space station, the sudden moment of realizing a piece of insulation had floated away, the frustration and the problem-solving that followed. A narrative that makes the viewer feel the reality of life in orbit, the tangibility of the equipment, the mundane yet profound challenges of working in a vacuum. That story has characters, tension, and a resolution. It makes the truth feel alive, immediate, and human. It does not just say the object was a blanket, it shows you the hands that lost it and the minds that tracked it. The goal is not to dumb down the science, but to humanize it, to wrap the data in a narrative that people want to follow and share. The truth about our universe is the most incredible story ever told, filled with genuine heroes, staggering discoveries, and mysteries far stranger than fiction. We have simply forgotten how to tell it with the fire it deserves. This transformation from a debunked satellite into a pop culture icon is perhaps its final, most complete victory. You can hear the myth echoing not in scientific journals, but in the pounding drums of a heavy metal anthem. The British band Saxon released a song titled The Black Knight in 1995, its lyrics painting a vivid picture of a silent, watching sentinel from beyond the stars. This was not a documentary, it was an epic set to music, framing the satellite as an eternal guardian or invader. A concept felt more than analyzed. Television, always a mirror for our collective curiosities, absorbed the legend seamlessly. In an episode of The X-Files, agents Mulder and Scully investigate a mysterious object that crashes to Earth, described as having been in orbit for thousands of years. The show, built on the premise that the truth is out there, used the Black Knight template as a ready-made plot device, a perfect MacGuffin that felt authentic to its audience of conspiracy enthusiasts. Even satire could not resist. The animated series Futurama featured a joke about the alien satellite, a dark, silent object the characters encounter, a direct and winking nod to the familiar myth. Each of these appearances, whether played straight or for laughs, performed the same critical function. They reintroduced the idea to a massive audience without the baggage of its debunking. For a viewer watching The X-Files, The Black Knight was presented as one more eerie piece in a world filled with government secrets. The show did not pause to explain that the real-world counterpart was a piece of lost insulation that would have ruined the mood. The entertainment value required the mystery to remain intact, and in doing so, it reinforced the legend's status as a legitimate piece of modern folklore. The audience was not learning history, they were absorbing a story, and the line between the two blurred with every commercial break. This cultural seepage found its most interactive form in the sprawling worlds of video games. Titles like Destiny and Mass Effect, which build entire universes around ancient alien civilizations and their lost technologies, are practically built from the same narrative clay as the Black Knight myth. In these digital realms, players don't just hear about ancient orbital artifacts, they discover them, interact with them, and often wield their power. A mysterious derelict satellite floating in a game's lore is not questioned. It is accepted as a foundational part of that world's reality. This interactive acceptance is powerful. When a player spends hours on a quest related to an ancient orbital artifact, that concept becomes emotionally real and viscerally experienced. The game does not come with a footnote explaining the real-world myth's origins. It simply presents the idea as a cool, imaginative fact within its own universe. The player then carries that sense of cool, that feeling of authentic discovery, back into the real world. The next time they encounter a YouTube video about the real Black Knight, their brain has already been primed. It feels familiar, not like a debunked claim, but like a piece of a larger, exciting narrative they have already lived through. This is how the myth achieves true immortality. It escapes the confines of debate and becomes a shared cultural touchstone, a piece of shorthand for mystery itself. A musician writes a song about it, a TV writer drops it into a script, a game designer codes it into a virtual sky. With each iteration, the context of thermal blankets and orbital decay falls further away, leaving only the compelling core of the story, an ancient watcher in the dark. The legend no longer needs believers to argue for it. It simply needs creators to use it, and in using it, they pass it on to the next generation, clean of its complications, ready to inspire wonder all over again. The Black Knight's journey reveals more than a story. It exposes a blueprint. This legend is a perfect case study in how modern misinformation is manufactured and made immortal, following a playbook we can now see with startling clarity. Step 1. Anchor the myth in real events. Every powerful falsehood needs a seed of truth to grow. Nikola Tesla did hear a strange signal. Scientists did record baffling long-delayed echoes. Gordon Cooper did see an unexplained object. These are not fabrications, they are documented moments of genuine mystery. The playbook takes these authentic puzzles, strips away their complex, often mundane scientific explanations, and presents the raw anomaly as proof of something far more spectacular. The tactic is brilliant because challenging the myth now feels like you are denying history itself. Step 2. Co-opt ambiguous visual evidence. The human brain is a pattern-seeking machine, desperate to turn noise into signal. The STS-88 photograph provided the perfect canvas, a dark, tumbling shape against the infinite black of space, its details blurred by distance and motion. The playbook presents this ambiguity not as a limitation, but as an invitation. It asks the viewer to connect the dots their own mind is already desperate to connect, transforming a lost thermal blanket into a crafted satellite. The lack of clarity becomes the evidence because in the absence of a definitive answer, the most exciting story wins. Step 3. Attach the mystery to a broader, emotionally charged framework. A lone weird satellite is just a curiosity, but a satellite hidden by a government conspiracy, that is a crusade. The playbook seamlessly inserts the Black Knight into the grand narrative of cover-ups and suppressed truth. Official denials from NASA are no longer corrections, they are confirmations of the conspiracy. Scientific explanations are dismissed as the chatter of paid gatekeepers. This move is psychologically bulletproof. It turns every attempt at debunking into further proof of the deception, making the believer feel smarter and more perceptive. Step 4. Leverage emotional storytelling over dry facts. Compare the two presentations. A scientific paper on orbital decay uses equations and data tables. A YouTube documentary on the Black Knight uses a haunting score, slow zooms on the grainy photo, and a narrator's voice dripping with grave implication. One speaks to the intellect, the other speaks directly to the sense of wonder, suspicion, and excitement. The playbook understands that we are not rational creatures who feel, we are emotional creatures who sometimes think. It wins the heart long before the mind has a chance to object. Step 5. Amplify through self-reinforcing digital networks. The internet did not just spread this story, it built an ecosystem for it. Online forums became echo chambers where every new clue was celebrated and contradictory evidence was filtered out. Algorithmic recommendations on video platforms created endless rabbit holes where one click leads to 10 more videos, each more sensational than the last. The playbook exploits this architecture, ensuring the myth is constantly remixed, shared, and rediscovered by new audiences, each time feeling like a fresh, shocking discovery. Step 6. Monetize the engagement. This is where the cycle becomes self-sustaining. Mysteries that generate clicks generate revenue. Thumbnails scream with red arrows and words like classified and banned. Creators and platforms have a direct financial incentive to keep the mystery alive, to present every debunked point as a new revelation. The truth becomes bad for business because it ends the conversation, and the conversation is the product. From a misunderstood signal to a monetized mystery, the Black Knight is not an accident. It is a textbook example of 21st century misinformation, a ghost story engineered for the digital age. It shows us that the most persistent myths are not built on lies, but on a strategic distortion of reality, weaponizing our own curiosity, our distrust of authority, and our deep need for a more wondrous universe against us. 13,000 years is a time beyond comprehension. If the Black Knight were real and truly that ancient, its silent orbit would not just be a mystery, it would be a bomb detonating at the foundation of everything we know. Let us for a moment step fully into that fiction and follow its staggering implications. First, the object itself would be a miracle of engineering, a testament to a technology that defies our understanding of physics and material science. Imagine a satellite built not from aluminum and silicon, but from some unknown alloy or composite, forged in a star system far from our own. To survive the relentless, sandblasting rain of micrometeoroids for over 130 centuries, its hull would need to be self-healing or impossibly dense. To maintain a stable orbit against atmospheric drag for longer than recorded human history, it would require a propulsion system of unimaginable efficiency, perhaps tapping into energies we have not yet discovered. This would not be a mere probe, it would be a monument to durability, a piece of technology so advanced it appears to us as magic, obeying physical laws we have yet to write. The anthropological shockwave would be even more profound. 13,000 years ago, humanity was in the throes of the last ice age. We were hunter-gatherers painting on cave walls at Lascaux, just beginning the long, slow journey toward agriculture and civilization. The arrival of an alien artifact in orbit at that moment rewrites the entire human story. It introduces an external observer at our most vulnerable, formative stage. Every leap in our development, every unexplained ancient wonder would suddenly be viewed under a new, terrifying lens. Were we alone in our climb, or were we being watched, studied, or even subtly guided? The very notion of human achievement would be thrown into question, transforming our pride in pyramids and particle accelerators into a haunting uncertainty. Our entire history becomes a question, with the Black Knight as the eternal, silent punctuation mark hanging in the sky. And this leads to the deepest, most unsettling philosophical questions. Why is it there? The possibilities are each more world-shaking than the last. Is it a watchtower, a lonely sentinel recording the rise of a promising species on a blue-green planet? Is it a beacon pulsing a faint signal back to its creators, a cosmic postcard saying, life has emerged here? Or is it something darker, a warning or a boundary marker, placed to quarantine a dangerous world until it proves itself worthy of joining a galactic community? The intent behind its placement would define our species' cosmic identity. Are we children being nurtured, specimens in a lab, or prisoners on a probationary planet? The silence of the satellite would be the most deafening part of the mystery because in its muteness, it reflects every fear and hope we have ever projected onto the stars. This thought experiment is not a case for its reality, but a key to understanding its grip on us. The legend is compelling not because of the evidence, but because of the breathtaking scale of the story it tells. It offers a universe that is intimately involved with us, a narrative where humanity is central to a cosmic drama. That is a far more satisfying fiction than the cold, empty truth of orbital decay and lost equipment. And it is why, even when we know the facts, a part of us still looks up and wonders, what if? The profound questions raised by the Black Knight are a testament to our desire for a universe filled with meaning, but they also highlight a critical distinction. We do not need to cling to debunked myths to experience genuine cosmic wonder, because reality is already providing us with authentic, baffling mysteries that challenge our understanding. Look no further than the object named Oumuamua. In October 2017, telescopes in Hawaii detected a faint point of light moving at incredible speed. Its trajectory was the giveaway. It was not orbiting our sun, it was passing through. This was the first confirmed interstellar object ever observed within our solar system, a visitor from another star. Its origin alone was groundbreaking, but its behavior was what ignited a real, vigorous scientific debate. As Oumuamua sped away from the sun, it exhibited a tiny but undeniable extra push, a non-geometric acceleration that could not be explained by gravity alone. Comets often accelerate like this due to outgassing, the sun's heat vaporizing ice and creating a jet-like effect. Yet Oumuamua showed no visible coma, the cloud of gas and dust that typically surrounds a comet. So what was pushing it? Legitimate astrophysicists proposed a range of hypotheses, from the release of hidden hydrogen ice to the possibility it was a very thin, lightweight object being pushed by solar radiation pressure like a cosmic light sail. One scientist, Avi Loeb, famously suggested we should consider the possibility it was an artificial artifact. This was not a fringe blogger's claim. It was a provocative argument published in scientific literature, part of a serious, ongoing conversation about how we interpret anomalous data. The key difference from the Black Knight legend is stark. Here, the mystery was met not with a pre-written narrative, but with open questions, peer-reviewed papers, competing models, and a shared acknowledgement that we simply needed more data. The scientific process, in all its slow, meticulous glory, was working exactly as designed, embracing the unknown without rushing to a sensational conclusion. This same spirit of rigorous inquiry is now being applied to the skies above our own planet, through the study of unidentified anomalous phenomena, or UAPs. For decades, the topic of UFOs was relegated to tabloids and conspiracy circles, poisoned by association with hoaxes and wild speculation. That changed decisively in 2017, when the New York Times published a front-page story revealing the Pentagon's secret Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program. The report included declassified Navy videos with names like Gophast, Gimbal, and Tic Tac captured by the most advanced sensor systems on Earth. These were not blurry dots filmed by a shaky handheld camera. These were objects tracked by fighter jet radars, filmed through targeting pods, and witnessed by highly trained pilots like Commander David Fravor. His account is chilling in its clarity, describing a white, tic-tac-shaped object with no visible wings or exhaust, hovering above the water before accelerating instantaneously to hypersonic speeds, a maneuver defying known physics. The government's own reports now acknowledge dozens of such incidents that remain unexplained, objects demonstrating flight characteristics beyond our current technological capabilities. This is a legitimate mystery investigated by official government offices, discussed in congressional hearings, and scrutinized by physicists and intelligence analysts. The contrast with the Black Knight myth could not be more instructive. Both involve unexplained objects, but the UAP investigation starts with sensor data and first-hand testimony from credible witnesses, then works forward to try to identify the phenomenon. The Black Knight legend started with a story, then worked backward to gather and reinterpret disparate historical events as evidence. One is a process of discovery, the other is a process of confirmation. What these real anomalies demonstrate is that the universe is strange enough on its own terms. We do not need to invent ancient alien satellites when our own pilots are encountering objects that perform impossible maneuvers. We do not need to misinterpret thermal blankets when our telescopes are catching interstellar visitors that accelerate without a visible cause. The true frontier of mystery is not found in the recycled tales of the past, but in the raw, unresolved data of the present. This is where science shines, not by providing easy answers, but by having the courage and the discipline to say, "We do not know yet." It investigates with tools like peer review, which subjects wild claims to the harsh light of collective scrutiny, and healthy skepticism, which demands extraordinary evidence for extraordinary claims. It understands that a mystery is not an invitation to insert a favorite myth, but a call to gather better data, build better sensors, and think more creatively. The enduring lesson is not that we should stop looking for wonders in the sky, but that we must learn to look with clearer eyes. The greatest discoveries await not where our stories have already been written, but in the vast, quiet spaces where the data itself is still learning how to speak. But this raises a delicate question, one that often lingers after a mystery is explained. Isn't it a bit of a killjoy to debunk a story like this? After all, the Black Knight is a thrilling piece of modern folklore, a campfire tale for the space age. It sparks imagination, fuels late-night conversations, and makes the night sky feel alive with possibility. That sense of playful speculation is a genuine joy, a harmless hobby for many. So where do we draw the ethical line between spoiling fun and correcting a harmful falsehood? The answer lies not in the act of questioning a story, but in the consequences that story creates when it escapes the realm of fun and begins to reshape reality. The first casualty is often history itself. Nikola Tesla was a brilliant, visionary inventor whose real accomplishments are staggering. He pioneered alternating current, laid the groundwork for wireless communication, and dreamed of technologies we are still catching up to today. Yet, in the Black Knight narrative, his legacy is reduced to a single misinterpreted event. He becomes not a complex genius who made real contributions, but a prophetic character in an alien conspiracy, his meticulous work overshadowed by a ghost story. This is a profound disrespect, trading the truth of a remarkable human life for a more convenient plot point. The myth does not honor Tesla, it uses him, flattening his achievements into a mere clue for a mystery he never knew. The second, more damaging consequence is the erosion of trust. When the legend frames every scientific explanation as a lie and every government agency as part of a cover-up, it doesn't just promote a fun idea, it actively trains people to dismiss expertise and evidence. It creates a worldview where the only trustworthy voices are those confirming the conspiracy, and all others are malicious actors. This mindset, once seeded, doesn't stay confined to satellite myths. It spills over into how people view public health, climate science, and democratic institutions. The playful what-if hardens into a defiant "they are all lying to us," poisoning the well of public discourse and making collective problem-solving impossible. Finally, there is the simple issue of exploitation. When the myth is packaged not as a story, but as hidden truth and sold for profit, through sensational documentaries, books, and merchandise, it crosses from folklore into fraud. The audience is no longer invited to play. They are told they are being enlightened, often for the price of a monthly subscription or a premium video purchase. This commercial machinery preys on curiosity and distrust, not to foster wonder, but to generate revenue. the fun is monetized and the line between entertainment and exploitation vanishes. So, is there a middle ground? Absolutely. We can and should appreciate the Black Knight for what it truly is, a fascinating piece of modern mythology. It is a brilliant case study in how stories evolve, how our brains connect dots, and what we yearn for when we look at the stars. We can enjoy it as a cultural artifact, a compelling narrative born from a century of errors and imagination, much like we enjoy the tales of King Arthur without believing in a literal sword in the stone. The key is to hold two ideas in our minds at once. We can marvel at the epic story of an ancient sentinel while also knowing the photograph shows a tumbling blanket. We can be fascinated by the mystery of long-delayed echoes while understanding they were likely a natural atmospheric phenomenon. This dual awareness doesn't diminish wonder, it refines it. It directs our awe away from a debunked satellite and toward the genuine, staggering mysteries that remain. The real UAP encounters, the true nature of Oumuamua, the sheer, breathtaking scale of a cosmos that needs no embellishment to be utterly astonishing. The universe is not made less magical by our understanding, it is made more profound. Our challenge is to fall in love with the real story, with all its complexity, uncertainty, and genuine, unresolved wonder. The story of the Black Knight is a journey through a century of human error and imagination. We began in a stormy Colorado field where a genius mistook a pulsar for a message. We followed a strange echo that baffled Norwegian scientists, a piece of Cold War space junk that sparked a headline, and an astronaut's sincere testimony about a greenish glow. We watched a lost thermal blanket tumble into legend, perfectly framed by a shuttle camera. Each step was a real event, stripped of its context and woven into a grander, more thrilling narrative. The answer to why it persists is not a single fact, but a perfect storm. It is psychology, our brain's desperate need to connect random dots into a meaningful picture. It is culture, our hunger for mystery in a world that feels too explained, and our love for stories about ancient watchers and government cover-ups. It is technology, the internet's endless feedback loop that amplifies wonder and monetizes doubt. Together, these forces built something far more durable than any satellite, a story that fulfills a deep and timeless human need. The most fascinating object orbiting our planet was never a piece of alien technology. It is the story itself, a testament to our incredible capacity to look at the static of the universe and hear a symphony, to gaze at a crumpled blanket and see a night, to transform the cold, empty silence of space into a canvas for our greatest hopes and our most haunting fears. The Black Knight is a mirror, and what it reflects back at us is infinitely more interesting than any phantom in the sky. So what was your first brush with this cosmic ghost story? Did you stumble upon a grainy photo online or hear a friend whisper about the satellite older than history? I would love to know in the comments below. Tell me what pulled you into the mystery, or share your thoughts on why we cling to tales like this long after they are debunked. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the anatomy of a modern myth, please share this video with someone who loves a good space mystery. And for more journeys to the frontier where fact meets folklore, consider subscribing. We explore the stories we tell about the cosmos, not to ruin the fun, but to understand the incredible human need behind them and to clear the way for the genuine wonders. Because the real night sky requires no invention. It is filled with pulsars singing in radio waves, with interstellar visitors tumbling through the void, and with questions that humble even our brightest minds. So keep looking up, wonder wildly, question relentlessly, and never stop being amazed by the universe that is actually there, waiting for us to